I have never played Star Wars Outlaws before, until now. I've entered the underworld and began my journey to becoming an outlaw, and along the way, I've met thieves, murderers, and made a name for myself. After playing through roughly 7 or so hours of Star Wars Outlaws, and being caught 1 or 2 or 20 times, this has been my experience. Before we get things started, I wanted to say a special thank you to Ubisoft for providing me with a review copy of Star Wars Outlaws. Since the first trailer I saw for this game, I have been incredibly excited to play it, and I'm so thankful to be able to do that with you here on the channel, thanks to Ubisoft. So Ubisoft, thank you once again. My expectations for Star Wars Outlaws were honestly a mixed bag. I had somewhat chosen to stay away from consuming loads of pre-launch content on the game, as I wanted to be able to formulate my own opinion from playing it myself. With all that said, my initial impressions after loading in was that of intrigue. Engaging in a Star Wars story with crime syndicates is something that I am quite interested in seeing how it works from a gameplay perspective. Being introduced to Kay Vess, our main character, was actually really cool. Ubisoft uses a cinematic approach to its default gameplay and storytelling here, and I really like it. Also, Nyx, so unbelievably cute. You gotta give it to the Star Wars IP. They know how to make fun and cutesy companions in their media. One thing I had to get adjusted to immediately, though, was the controls. Everything was incredibly fast on my mouse and keyboard, and then when I tried switching over to controller, things just got even worse. I think there are some bugs in the game when it comes to using a third-party controller on PC, at least there was for me. But after some time with trial and error, I decided that I would run mouse and keyboard and found a way to slow down the movement so it felt more comfortable for me. Technical difficulties aside, after only playing the game for mere minutes, I actually loved the 21:9 cinematic aspect ratio. It kind of made the game feel more like a movie, which struck me as a really unique feature that I was pleased to partake in. Stepping straight into a cantina is like one of the most Star Wars ways to start a Star Wars game. And man, they absolutely nailed it. It feels like an actual cantina with real people doing real things. I can already tell that being in an open world Star Wars game, if they keep this up, is going to absolutely feel incredible. I was pleasantly surprised by the menu system. The sound effects, music, and design has a very unique feeling, but is immensely Star Wars, and that helped to immediately immerse me. It's a small touch, but the menu system in a game, especially one where you spend a lot of time there, can make a huge impact on a player's experience, and it feels like they nailed it here. Now, I'm a sucker for games where they give you things to collect. You know, when you run around and just pick things up. Something about the endorphin rush of picking up something always gets me, and I'm so glad that the game started me off quickly with collecting. And also the fact that you can use Nyx to collect things for you is so funny to me. Something I noticed while going through my initial first steps was that the NPCs that fill the world are speaking to each other about things that are actually interesting. If you stop and listen to them, you'll actually learn a lot about the world and its inhabitants.
Easy. Just place bets on both. Sure, because I'm made of credits.
This is a really nice thing that goes a long way for immersion. Little side note here, but The Last Jedi is my least favorite Star Wars movie. In fact, I kind of hate it. So it's kind of funny to me that the game kicks things off in Canto Bites. Weirdly enough though, so far, I like it a hell of a lot better in the game than in the movie. Okay, side note over. I was absolutely floored when I came across an actually functional arcade game. A lot of times, video games will have an arcade machine or something of the like, but you can't actually engage with it. So being able to actually play this super retro arcade game was so much fun, and again helped to immerse me further. What's not fun in games though is that Star Wars Outlaws introduces you to the crime world very quickly. You're spending lots of time in alleyways and sneaking around in areas you shouldn't be, which is really interesting. And as you do that, there is constantly underlining music going on and it is a really unique mix of your traditional Star Wars music material and sort of a retro synthwave feel. It combines to be something really engaging, and I absolutely loved it. It feels super underground and fits the vibe big time. Now, you learn pretty quickly in this game about the various types of movement that you can use to traverse the world. You can use a grapple hook to reach specific higher areas, you can jump and hold onto ledges, you can climb walls that are sorta like rock climbing walls, you'll know them when you see them, and you are greatly encouraged to do quite a bit of crouching as to avoid being seen by enemies. These are really the pillars of movement in the game, and for the most part, it feels really good. Now, regarding the combat, my initial impressions are reasonably fine. It's not the most robust system you'll ever experience, but it does check the boxes and works as intended. You have your main blaster that you can use to shoot at enemies, and you can also upgrade it, but you can also pick up blasters that dead enemies have dropped and use them until you switch back to your own. Again, it's nothing revolutionary, but it also doesn't get in your way, so for me, I was pleased. Now, what did not please me, though, was something that I wish didn't have as strong of a stranglehold on Star Wars Outlaws as it does. This particular bit of the game is certainly going to be a turnoff for players, and for me, has been something that has been an adjustment that I really have not enjoyed. It's not that the element itself is terrible, it's just that the developers have chosen to make this a core pillar of the game, and I feel that was a misguided decision. Something you will notice about Star Wars Outlaws after only a short bit of game time is that you will be asked to perform tasks utilizing stealth. Now, on the surface, that's not particularly a big deal. Many games ask you to use stealth, and in fact, many times it's a very fun and enjoyable formula. There are whole game genres and franchises built around this formula. Another Ubisoft IP makes stealth its main mantra, Assassin's Creed. So the fact that Star Wars Outlaws includes stealth in and of itself is not a bad thing. However, what makes it a mostly unenjoyable experience is the over-reliance on the stealth mechanic in its quest design. Through my 7+ hours in this game, I have come to the understanding that all of the main quests that drive the story forward focus almost entirely on stealth. You will be given a mission in which you need to complete, and it will certainly require you to go somewhere you aren't supposed to be and do something you're not supposed to do. As such, you will have to use stealth in order to not be seen by the guards that are there. And again, these types of missions aren't a bad thing. And in fact, if you are an enjoyer of stealth in games, then this actually may be a really good thing for you. However, for me, the problem has come where all the main quests function this way, and it loses the fun factor. There are just so many unique and beautiful locations that you traverse in this game, and the fact that a lot of them you have to traverse stealthily is honestly pretty annoying. And even though the gameplay is engaging, especially using your buddy Nix to help you out, it still gets boring and repetitive the more you are asked to do it. Now, I get it. It's a game about being an outlaw in the underworld of Star Wars. Of course, you're gonna need to perform some stealth missions in order to do your job. Absolutely. I just feel like they could have designed some methods of main quests that didn't rely on stealth. Now, granted, I'm only around 7 to 8 hours through the game, so maybe that changes as it goes on, but I'm not betting on that. What makes this system even more odd is that if you are in a zone that requires stealth, as you are not supposed to be there, and you are caught, you effectively fail the mission, and you are asked to restart. Now, the thing is, unless I'm missing something, you don't really have any negative effects placed on you for failing. You are just simply sent back to the beginning and asked to do it again. So theoretically, you can just fail indefinitely, and it will never actually have an impact on your game progression. At least for me, I never got to that point. However, I failed many times. Now, this is sort of a weird situation because I wish that there was an actual impact on your game progression from failing, but Then again, if every main quest is designed with stealth, then how on earth would you realistically progress through the game if you always fail and then tank your reputation and aren't allowed to go near the quest location? So I see why the developers have designed it this way, where you aren't negatively impacted, but at the same time, it also releases some of the tension of the stealth, which then in turn makes the whole system feel less important. You almost get to a point where you know you can just restart, so in order to get a better understanding of an area, you may just send it, knowing you'll be caught, in order to do some recon for your next run. And I feel like that isn't the intended gameplay loop from the devs. This is what's so mind-boggling about the over-reliance on stealth within Star Wars Outlaws. It's not that the system itself is bad, it's just that you do it so much that the cracks start to show after you've done it so many times, and unfortunately, you do it many, many times. Having to endure this system as someone who isn't a huge fan of stealth in general in games has been something that I have not loved. The low points that I've experienced in my playthrough all come from the stealth. I wish that wasn't the case, but it is. There are just so many other incredible aspects to Star Wars Outlaws that don't require stealth that more times than not, I find myself wanting to partake in those areas of the game way more than the main quests. And the good thing is that Ubisoft has ensured that there are so many positive things that you will experience that it really helps to dilute the issues that you may have with the stealth. My experience in Star Wars Outlaws has been made by these key things that the game does to truly give you the Star Wars open world experience you've perhaps always wanted. And for me, being someone who was incredibly enticed about the idea of being in an open, breathing world of Star Wars, they absolutely killed it, putting me in a galaxy far, far away. All right, now I gotta speak from the heart for a bit because there are a lot of things here that seriously come together to give me a similar emotional feeling that I got while playing The Witcher 3, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and Hogwarts Legacy. Simply put, Ubisoft puts you in the living and breathing world of Star Wars. And if you are a Star Wars fan, then chances are you will feel emotionally captivated by the world you are set in. That is 100% the biggest takeaway I have after playing this game for more than 7 hours. Yes, it is an open world game, but this world is Star Wars, and it spares no expense ensuring that you remember that. The background music that plays when you're walking around a town deeply immersed me to an extent that is hard to quantify. And speaking of music, I truly feel this may be one of the best video game soundtracks in a while. The main theme, K-Ves, I have had on repeat since first playing the game. I will literally sit at the main menu just to listen to the music. It is so beautifully done and is a really interesting take on music within the Star Wars IP. It sets the tone, and it continues to keep up the tone appropriately as you play and go throughout the different regions and areas. And as you go throughout those regions and areas, there are so many small things that come together to increase the level of immersion. For example, when I was going through Miragana on my way to McCall's Cantina, I walked past a little alcove where I heard some voices speaking, so naturally I turned to see what was there. And I was met with a table with individuals playing a card game. And guess what? I was able to sit down and play myself. Now, this isn't some revolutionary concept. The Witcher 3 did this all the way back in 2015 with Gwent, but still, this was completely unexpected for me. I sat down and played a game of Kessel Sabak, a unique card game that was presumably created specifically for Star Wars Outlaws. And it's a fun game at that. You pay an entry fee and can win the pots if you are the best at the table. This, even being a small feature, made a huge impact on my playthrough because it really felt like I was in a world with people doing their own thing. And that goes a long way with immersion in games like this. Now, the small bits of immersion didn't stop there, because as I continued heading toward McCall's Cantina, which is awesome by the way, I walked past another alcove with several individuals standing around a table, and as such, I was beckoned over there. Turns out, seeing as your journey in this game begins on Canto Bight, there are places to gamble all over the game, and that's what this was. You can go up to a kiosk and choose a horse to bet on, and if that horse wins, you can earn money based on your bet. Now, I've never actually betted on horse racing in real life, like the Kentucky Derby, but I imagine that this is similar to that. I had an absolute blast doing this, even if it was only for a minute or two. Again, this is small, but the fact that this game allows you to partake in these small things makes me feel like I am truly a part of something that is real and living. And for me, those are some of the things that helped me forget what I don't like about the stealth in Star Wars Outlaws. Now, not every playthrough is created equal, and your time in this game may be met with a completely different feel than mine. But for me, this feels like exactly what I would wish for when playing an open world Star Wars game. If you've ever been to Hollywood Studios at Disney World and you've gone to Galaxy's Edge, you would understand the similar feeling that I am discussing here. There's just something about being in a living world of Star Wars that feels absolutely incredible. Now, there are other things that contribute to this feeling in Star Wars Outlaws, like being on your speeder out in the open landscape. One time I stopped at an abandoned gas station and left my speeder in the road, and it hogged up the traffic and had me absolutely rolling. It was hilarious to see the other vehicles just stopped, all because I got off my speeder in the middle of the road. And at that same gas station, I fed and pet an animal, and then had like 15 of them surrounding me wanting me to feed them as well. I mean, come on, man, that's absolutely hilarious. There are also treasures that you can find throughout the world, and damn it, they are hard to find too. I spent over an hour looking for one treasure and I still haven't found it. And there are certainly restrictions to the world and where you can go, but I'm finding that what you can traverse is very open and exciting and has lots of layers to peel back. Listen, all in all, my experience in Star Wars Outlaws so far has been genuinely fun and enjoyable. Has it been perfect? No, not at all. There are certainly some frustrating things about this game. However, all of the good things certainly outweigh the bad for me. I find myself just adoring my time existing in the world and not even really caring all that much about pushing the progression of the game forward. And to me, that's the sign of good world building in an open world game. I love just being there in Star Wars Outlaws, and after playing for more than 7 hours, I can't wait to play more. Thank you all so much for watching today's video. If you're still watching at this point, you are incredible, and I thank you greatly. If you enjoyed, please consider liking the video so it helps others see my experience in Star Wars Outlaws. If you are interested in seeing more videos like this, where I play through new games and showcase my experience, I encourage you to subscribe. But until next time, to see my first moments playing through Elden Ring, check out this video on screen now.